Okay. You're welcome to keep working on that in a little bit, but I want to explain the expectation I have for the type of writing that you're doing. This is not a 5-paragraph essay. You guys have been really used to very formulaic writing. Like, here's what to do. Like the argument paragraph that got drilled into your heads is super like, you need this, then this, then this, then this. Okay? We're gonna try to move and use that foundation to have a more advanced writing style from that. So instead of just having, here's my thesis, it has 3 different prongs, and each of those prongs corresponds to 1 body paragraph in a conclusion, there's my paper. We're gonna try and make our thesis statements, they're called 3-story thesis statements or 3-layered thesis statements instead of 3-pronged. And I'll show you guys how to do that. But yeah. Yes, I will gladly do that. Big thing about thesis statements. This may blow some of your mind. It does not have to be at the end of an introduction. Did you have a question?
So, if we've already written like the first paragraph, can we scrap that?
No, don't scrap it. Edit it.
Okay. Use
it. Edit it. Elevate it. Totally fine if you've already done that. Yeah. You don't need to like start over at all. Your thesis doesn't have to be at the end of your intro. Okay. These 3-story or 3-layer thesis statements are more of an introductory thesis paragraph rather than here's 1 sentence with my thesis statement. Okay, your thesis statement can be multiple sentences. Like nothing ever says that you have to have 1 sentence as a thesis statement. I do want to specify when you're doing a timed writing, make it as formulaic as you can, which sounds like so contradictory. But time writings, you do not have time to go back and edit anything. Do a 3-pronged thesis statement, get it done, make it look like you know what you're talking about, okay? So totally fine with 3-pronged thesis statements for time writings. Do you guys know what I mean when I say a 3-pronged thesis statement? Okay, that is totally fine. So your thesis statement, it can be non-obvious. Like you can argue something, it doesn't have to be like, this is my underlined 1 sentence, okay? It needs to be arguable. I really like this example, okay? Sustainability is important. Is that a thesis statement? Yes, it is. Is it a good one? Not really. It's super vague, and you could, like a 3-prong would be sustainability is important because it helps with big business. It helps like option B, option C, you know, like 3 things, and you would just list them. Instead, we're moving towards something like this. So sustainability is important, but sustainability policies will inevitably fail if they do not incorporate social justice. Do you see how specified that is? And also how it changes from, yes, it's important, that's almost the assumption from the second point, right? We're all assuming sustainability is important, but what about it is important? It needs social justice, otherwise it will fail. Something along those lines is a way more arguable thesis statement because the important part, it doesn't take a side. It just says it's important, which most people would agree with. Are you tracking? Okay. Well specified, just like this. You don't have to know what this, oh wait, hold on, never mind. You can move from it's a like inevitably fail can only be effective, but make sure you say how so, like incorporate social justice. So having some sort of like arguable claim with there, it has to be specific. Also, implication, a conclusion that can be drawn from it. We're concluding that sustainability is important and that you need social justice with that. It's explained more in the body paragraphs, but you're kind of taking a stand with it. Okay. You don't need to know what this means. So don't get overwhelmed by when I read it, okay? Just notice the language. Notice the language. Don't get caught up with what it's saying. Linen served as a form of currency in the ancient Mediterranean world, connecting rival empires through circuits of trade. So they're arguing for linen as a form of currency in the Mediterranean world because it was through circuits of trade. That is an okay thesis statement, all right? Usually you guys would be like, that's pretty solid. Let's move towards more version B. Again, don't get caught up with what it's trying to actually say about linen. Just notice the language. Linen served as a form of currency in the ancient Mediterranean world, connecting rival empires through circuits of trade. That's the first layer. The economic role of linen raises important questions about how shifting environment conditions can influence economic relationships and, by extension, political conflicts. What are they arguing here? They use this context to give us more of what the actual argument is. Economic role allowed for influenced political conflicts. The role of linen influenced political conflicts. That's what they're arguing. Do you see how it moves from just a simple statement to something that actually is arguable? Okay. This is what you guys are used to. 5-paragraph essay, okay? This is the type of thesis statement you're used to. Preventative medicine saves money, reduces suffering, and saves lives. 3-pronged thesis statement. Each one of them goes to the different body paragraphs. And then in the end, it shows that it's important and it's going to continue to happen. It's really surface level, okay? This is what I would like instead. All right. Instead of your introduction going really broad, from the dawn of time, okay, people used linen. Kind of have it more of the background context. So usually your intro goes broad statement, narrow to your thesis, right? That's what you've always been told. Guess what? Your introduction now is context of the argument, narrowing down to what the argument is. Do you see the difference? So context of the argument, narrowing down to what it actually is. Instead of, here's this big broad statement, here's my thesis statement. So it would look like something like this. A lack of preventative medicine shows we need a whole new concept of health and wellness. So we need something that, this is more arguable. Like you can find more stuff on this because a lack of preventative medicine or when preventative medicine is used well. Then your first body paragraph could be like, here's what I mean by conventional medicine. Here's kind of the arguments that are going around it. Then here's why conventional medicine isn't set up for preventative care. And then here's what would happen if it's done right. So it's a line of reasoning that isn't like bullet pointed. It's rationally bringing your audience through. Here's like, let's get all on the same context. Then let's see why it's not happening. And then here's what would happen if it does happen. So you're bringing them through the argument more. And then last, your conclusion. Every sentence matters a lot more in this type of writing. In 5 paragraph essays, I think that an introduction and a conclusion are not necessary because they add nothing to your argument, right? Your introduction, all you really need is your thesis statement. In a conclusion, all you really need is, here's everything I already talked about. You know, they're boring. They don't have anything. Whereas here, a conclusion is like adding value to why the thesis, like what are the implications of this? So yes, we need preventative medicine. We see the shift happening. Here's what you can do to continue this. So it's kind of like that call to action almost that kind of brings it around. Questions on this so far? Are we noticing the differences? Are we getting there? When I think you start writing, you're gonna catch yourself going to your like old habits and then have to edit. This does not happen the first time, okay? Please don't think that this is gonna happen on your first shot, okay? That's why writing your draft is so important so that you can go back and edit, and that's where a lot of this will come into play. Okay. Here's where we're going to talk about our thesis statements, okay? The 3-story thesis statement is what I want us to try to do for our thesis statements. This is a more nuanced level of writing. It's so much closer. In fact, it is what college professors expect, and also what will make you write so much clearer and bring your argument just elevated more. It's that layer of sophistication. Okay, we're putting a top hat on our essays, pretty much. Layer 1 is context. What are the inarguable facts? What is happening? So it's that context. Layer 2 is what about this is an argument? So you're like introducing the argument. Why is it an argument? Is kind of layer 2. And then layer 3 is what is the broader context? What are the implications of this argument? What is like, that is almost the like nuance of your thesis statement. So like what then can we conclude based on our background context and our idea of what an argument is? Let me show you one so that we can. Okay. I took this from a book and I dumped a bunch of like golden nuggets that the book has into this PowerPoint so that as I'm talking, if you're like, I need to go back and like get this explained more, you can go back and read, so that'll kind of help you. So don't freak out if like you haven't read everything on these slides. Here's an example. Layer 1, first story, okay? Online learning is becoming more prevalent and takes many different forms. What's our topic? Online learning, okay? Online learning becoming more prevalent and taking forms. That's our, like, no one can argue that. That is a fact. That's the context that's happening, okay? It's getting everyone on the same page. Like, this is happening. Second story, while most observers see it as a transformation of higher education, online learning is better thought of as an extension. So we're on the same page, and now here's where the actual argument starts. Education, people over here see it as transformation, but I want to argue that instead it's extension. It is that way because it reaches learners who aren't disposed to participate in traditional campus-based education. So it's giving a little explanation of why you think that it's an extension instead of a transformation, okay? Are we tracking so far? Okay. The third story is where you have to kind of pull in your stance further, okay? Don't stop at story 2. Move to story 3. Online learning appears to be a promising way to better integrate higher education with other institutions in society, as online learners integrate their educational experiences with other realms of their life, promoting the freer flow of ideas between the academy and the rest of society. Online learning is relevant. It is not a transformation, it's actually an extension. Here's why we should still keep doing it and extend it further, because it promotes a freer flow of ideas and reaches more people. Are you noticing the progression of the argument? So we get everyone on the same page. We kind of bring in our thought a little bit on why it's an argument, and then we move toward what are the implications of this argument? Like, why have this argument? What are you going to say about it? Why is it important? Okay? Woo! Thank you. Questions. What questions do you have? This is different than anything you've done, right? Three-pronged thesis statements. Most of your intro is written after you write your thesis statement, right? You might want like 2 sentences on background instead of 1. Fine, do it, okay? Then your intro is a little bit longer. But this is pretty much your whole introduction. Do you guys have questions on any of that? Okay, do you want to try it? Do you want to try it with yours? Do you want to see another example? Everyone's dead. I need some answers. Another example? Okay.
If we have like that to look off of, like you show that to us, then I think we'll do it.
Okay.
Checking back to it.
Definitely. Perfect. Let's look at one more really fast. I'll just read it and then I'll upload this on campus. Okay, first story. Edith Wharton did not consider herself a modernist writer, and she didn't write like her modernist contemporaries. She wasn't a modernist, she didn't write like a modernist, okay? However, so therefore people usually think that she's not what? A modernist. However, in her work, we can see her grappling with both the questions and literary forms that fascinated modernist writers of her era. While not an avowed modernist, she did engage with modernist themes and questions. So here's the argument presented, right? Some people think this, but really I'm arguing this. Thus, if you need a sentence stem, do it that way. Thus, therefore, here's a fact, however, therefore. That could be an easy sentence stem for you. Thus, it is more revealing to think of modernism as a conversation rather than a category or practice. So because of this, because of people like Edith Wharton and her having modernist things, but not really being labeled as a modernist, we should change the way we see modernism. That's what they're arguing for. Okay? All right, I'm gonna send you this. I loved this sentence in this book. It was so good. Experienced writers don't figure out what they want to say and then write it. They write it in order to figure out what they want to say. Edit, revise, write, edit, revise, write, reread, edit, have someone else read it out loud, edit, revise, okay? It's a process. It's not going to happen your first go around. Please don't get like overwhelmed and flustered. Writing isn't actually drafting, it's editing, okay? And one of my favorite things that just totally set me free from perfectionism, in order to make art or essays or anything that's actually good, you have to make some really crappy stuff first. That's the only way you're going to get there. So don't try and write this paper trying to make it perfect your first go. Just get it down, okay? We don't have that much time to try and make it perfect and get lost. Get it down, write it down. Put down a crap thesis, okay? And then go back and fix it later. Sound good? All right. If you are ready for introductions, there's a little bit here that kind of have examples of them. The big thing is make sure every sentence counts, okay? Don't just give a bunch of like things that are fluff. I don't like fluff. I don't want fluff. That's the big thing with intros. Let me pop this on campus for you guys. All right, questions? You guys feeling okay? I believe in you. I know you can do this. You guys are really talented. It's gonna be great. Go ahead and try to start writing your thesis statement. And then for Monday, you guys have to have sources. Does everyone know how to use Google Scholar? Mostly? Okay, check it out if you don't, play around with it. That's where I suggest you guys find most of your sources, is Google Scholar or Google searching, doing stuff like that. Make sure all of your sources are super credible. Use actual articles, not just websites. You can use some websites, but use articles, things like that. See what other people are saying, and then go ahead and move to trying to write. Sound good? Okay. Hi, Kara.
So,
Yeah. Sounds good.
So, I think I am going to do this because I think it's like interesting. So will that work?
Okay, so I love the topic. My only thing is this is an easy yes or no question.
Yeah.
Does
I
he
would just have
exist
to
or
change
not?
it. I
Yeah.
have to change it.
So I would say what you can do is you could do something like, what is the influence of Arthurian legend on modern storytelling? Or you could do like, what is the influence of like some sort of legend of his inside of him as an actual king or something, you know? So showcasing like the influence of something he did, or showcasing the what else could it be? I love Arthurian legends so very much.
I didn't know. I didn't know that there were like debates going on whether or not he was real.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why I thought it was so interesting.
That is so cool. So try and it could almost be what are the larger implications of King Arthur upon culture as a legend versus a person? You know? Do you see how the question changes just a little
Yeah.
bit? So that's almost your topic, but then having a
Yeah.
broader question with it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I maybe look and see what some people are saying or like
Okay.
what's out there.
Mhm.
I'm always like, don't reinvent the wheel. You
Yeah.
know, like you see what other people are doing and then
Mhm.
make it your own.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
I love that idea. That's so awesome.
So could
Hi.
you look over?
Yes, gladly. Let me post this before I forget. Topics, research paper. Oops. Edit. Links. Okay, it is in topics under research paper. It's thesis statements and intro PowerPoint. Sound good? Okay.
So this is.
describes which is their politics. It's political science. Here's the one that describes which the science is all interesting. What's the way in which a nation governs itself influences all of the components that make up the nation? Fascinating. As this is so, one can only truly understand the civilization of using the politics which govern that nation. As it is possible to create a Roman and the Greek, so called based on the styles of government and the effects with those which those governments have expressed either in countryside and military conquest. Okay, so you are arguing that examining a country's government allows for you, identifies every other aspect of the country.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, so almost arguing that the most important decision a country can make is how to govern themselves because it will decide everything else.
Yes.
Okay. And in order to do that, you are specifically looking at Roman and Greek political contributions, right?
Yes.
Like, okay, cool. Okay, I think that this is like the third layer of your thesis right here. Like this is where I get that thesis from. And the fact that I can pull that out to rephrase, I think is a good sign that you got what you wanted in here, right? Okay, and then how are you planning on structuring this? Like, are you gonna start with one?
Well,
Yeah.
I had,
Okay.
I was at the introduction, and I was going to like have a paragraph just describing each of the governments.
Okay.
Then I would compare them when it comes to economics, culture, and society, conquest, and then I would have one or two more paragraphs, just like
Okay.
summarizing and demonstrating the implications.
Okay, so I think the cool spot is going to be those implications. So you could argue in that, like, that Roman, like, which one was more successful
Yeah.
too, and like kind of grabbing that. Okay. Compare economic success. So you're looking at economic, culture, and military conquest. I think it's going to work.
Okay.
Do you feel like it's going to work?
I think so.
Okay. And I think that's a good 3 things to look at. And your sources are going to pull, try not to have all your sources be like facts. Try to find if you can see if other people have argued this before and what they say on it.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So like, see, like comparing the two and their opinion on which was more successful too, to like help boost your own thought. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I can-
Yeah, the only thing editing wise I would say is I would maybe, if your main argument is over, I think you have to decide, do you want your main argument to be the fact that the like cornerstone way to look at a culture is through their government, or do you want it to be Greek or Roman were more
Yeah,
successful?
I'm gonna try to switch it to
Cool.
that. I realize it. It's kind of ambiguous, so.
Okay,
Find
so
out
I
more.
would just try and bring, when you go back to edit that intro, try and bring forth what your stance of an argument actually is. So like, which side are you doing? Are you comparing them in order to be an example for why governments can affect the culture, or are you comparing them to see which one was more effective in their choice of government?
I mean, I want to do the second one.
Second one,
so I'm
then
gonna try
roll
it.
with that and make it a little bit clearer.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
for sure. Okay, before you leave, everyone's okay? Okay, Monday, you're coming with 8 sources listed. Please look on campus. There's a like sheet that I have, and then a draft of your thesis statement has to come for Monday. I know it's online learning, but you have to have that in front of you. Sound good? All right, you guys are awesome. For sure. Monday, we're doing a thesis throwdown by Dakota, where you're gonna put your statement into a discussion post, and people will be able to vote and like help you edit your thesis. So it's like peer review, and then we'll vote, and the ones that like win, we'll post them up here and like further edit them and like see which one we like better. And then you are coming with quotes for what you will use in your paper for your based on your 6 sources. For Tuesday though, you need like a draft of your intro too. Yeah.
Mr. Zolka?
Yeah, Christian, sorry, give me 1 second so that he can.
No, you're fine. So I changed my topic because the one I had wasn't it interested me, but it wasn't very provable.
Sure.
So I'm doing like music courses and education in schools, and how like they often, when schools are in like they're having financial problems, they always cut the music classes first.
Yeah.
And so I would be arguing that music classes actually affect students in more positive ways than other classes do.
Good.
And so I have this really, I just sent it to you in the chat. I have this like super, I just like wrote this thesis just now. So it's a super rough draft. But I don't know if it's something that would, if I worked on it, could work as a draft.
Around the world, schools are losing funds and having to cut different classes and subjects from their curriculum. Often the first of these classes to go are the music classes, while other classes such as science and math are saved for last. However, it has been proven that music classes actually affect students in many positive ways more than their other classes do, including mental health and academic learning. Music classes and courses, therefore, should be the last to go when finances are running low in schools. Love it. I think if you keep editing that, you follow the progression really well.
Okay, good.
And I think that'll work well. Yeah, I think that's an awesome topic.
Thank you, Mr. Zolka.
For sure. I'll see you later, Christian. Okay, I'm going
I
to.
have never used